Derek, I think I just saw our profits for the day fly by.
Was it that majestic creature doing loops around the new releases sign?
Yep, that's the one. I'd chase it, but I don't think our health insurance covers that kind of reckless behavior.
Health insurance. Wow, Grimey. Living on the edge as usual. What's next? Alphabetizing the straight to VHS classics section?
Let's not get carried away here. Anyways, what masterpiece will we be subjecting ourselves to tonight?
Well, I found this gem from the futuristic year of 2000 hiding in the back. You ever heard of The Dead Hate the Living, Grimey? Sounds like a real crowd pleaser to me.
I haven't heard of it. I guess we're the crowd here, so pop it in, see what happens.
Action. It's time. Oh, fuck.
What do you want from us?
Make them die. Slowly.
Oh, man. I love that song, Grimey. The dead hate the living, the dead hate the living.
Awesome song, man. Well, who is that?
Penis Flytrap, okay.
Wow. What a name.
Can you believe that they got Penis Flytrap to score The Dead Hate the Living?
Not only just one song, there's like quite a few of them in here, isn't there? Or is it all of them?
I mean, I think there's a couple other songs that is not Penis Flytrap, but those are kept to a minimum. Most of the punk hits that are played in this movie are by that band, and I have to say, it's probably one of my favorite bands that I've discovered in recent years. I think you and I, they've got to make it on the Halloween playlist one of these years.
Well, let me read the back of the box here and give you some context.
That's a good idea. I need a recap because, again, like last time we watched a movie, I'm a little hazy on the details.
Okay. So when a renegade band of young filmmakers breaks into an abandoned hospital to make their horror epic, they stumble upon a real dead body and decide to use it in their movie. They accidentally bring it back to life, open a portal to a dead world that releases dozens of other zombies, then struggle for their lives in a desperate attempt to flee from the creatures who apparently have them hopelessly trapped in the hospital. That is The Dead Hate the Living.
The dead hate the living. The dead hate the living.
So good, man.
So I have to admit, I know a lot of people love Full Moon Pictures kind of in the same way that they love Troma.
Yeah.
Right? You know what you're getting into with Full Moon, schlocky, B movie, and sometimes like C or even D movie. I've never really ventured into the Full Moon catalog very far. My Full Moon kind of stops at the Puppet Master series, so this was really like my first foray into something Full Moon outside of the Puppet Master series, and well, I guess I'll reserve my final thoughts towards the end of this discussion, but I've seen worse. I've definitely seen worse.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I've never actually watched any of the Puppet Master films. I believe I have, 3 of them hanging around somewhere in my basement. And I know we have like 2 or 3 of them here. But yeah, maybe another day. But this is my first foray into whatever the Full Moon Pictures it was. Yeah, that was my first foray as well.
Yeah. Charlie Band and his ragtag group. Well, I guess we'll call them filmmakers because they did make a film. Both they made this film, and within this film, there were filmmakers making their own film. So really, very meta in the filmmaker realm right now.
Absolutely.
With The Dead Hate the Living. So I mean, I gave my first thoughts here, my first impressions. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? It was at points it was a lot, I felt.
Yeah, I feel like just the cast alone and the characters, I had a very, very hard time really keeping score and keeping track of who everybody was. I mean, there's a lot of people here that I'm not familiar with. I'm actually not familiar with any of these names. If you want to venture through that really quick, we can just run down the line here. Well, we have the writer-director, Dave Parker, who is most famous for Tales of Halloween and House of the Dead.
So I saw that he wrote House of the Dead. I've never watched House of the Dead because isn't that an Uwe Boll movie? And yeah, I believe it is. His movies are, I think, on average, a notch below a Full Moon feature or a Troma feature. So that's kind of saying something. But what I will say is that Tales of Halloween, I didn't know that the director of this movie had any tie to Tales of Halloween. I actually really like that one. I don't know. Have you ever seen that one at all?
Nope.
We'll have to check it out sometime this Halloween season because it's a great low-budget, cheesy horror anthology that came out about 10-ish years ago. But there's a lot of like people from the horror scene in it. Like Adam Green features in it. I believe Joe Lynch is in it a little bit. But if I remember correctly, Dave Parker here, his segment was the Sweet Tooth segment, which is early on in that movie. And it's a great like little, I won't even call it a cautionary tale, but it's just a little tale about an evil demon monster breaking into your house and just killing people and stealing your Halloween candy. So it's fun.
Nice.
So, the tie to that is nice. I didn't realize that. And I think it kind of bleeds into, both pieces of work here. Little cheese, a little schlock, all fun.
All right. Well, I'll just sneak over the cast really, really quick here. So we have Eric Clausen, who plays David Poe, Jamie Donahue, who plays this very mall gothy girl named Topaz. We have Brett Beardsley, who plays Paul, Wendy Speake, who plays Shelley Poe, who also plays a doctor in the beginning, Dr. Sarah Ross. Then we have Benjamin P. Morris, who plays Eric, Rick Irwin, who plays Marcus, David Douglas, who plays Chaz.
Stop right there. Chaz is the coolest motherfucker in any room that he steps into, okay? This guy is like Lenny Kravitz. If you cranked Lenny Kravitz's cool factor like up to 200% cooler than Lenny Kravitz. He stepped on screen in this movie and I said, this guy, I am all in on this guy.
This is your Raphael. He fucks.
Yeah, he certainly does. Although I feel like there was a lack of him actually doing that in this movie, which is weird because everybody else seems like they're trying to.
At least trying, yeah.
Trying to. This guy couldn't give a shit. He's in this room. He doesn't care that he's here. He doesn't care that he's there. He doesn't give a shit about anything.
He's maxing, relaxing the entire time. I mean, he's smoking weed. Seriously, the entirety of the film, he's just like puffing on ganj. He's just there with his sunglasses on. It's very dark in this film. There's no real need to have sunglasses, but he's got them.
Well, he wears them at night, and he's smoking the ganja. I gotta tell you, I would watch a spinoff of just this guy. Okay, so I didn't mean to interrupt. I need to get that out. I've been waiting to say something since that movie ended and the rewind feature started over on the VCR over there.
All right, so moving on, we got Matt Steffens as Dr. Abon.
Yeah. You mean not Serge Tankian?
Yeah, not Serge Tankian, not Rob Zombie.
Any one of those, like late 90s sort of new metal guys. This guy's doing a very piss poor impression of them. He doesn't even have the gravelly voice.
Yeah, he's just like this really weird ripoff of John Davis, but like without all of the crack. Oh, I'm sorry, it was meth. My bad. Then we got Kimberly Polis, who plays Nina Poe. Ander Doc Newman, who plays Maggot, a very nemesis-looking zombie who looks very awesome.
Was that his name? Maggot?
Yeah.
You'll see there's a running theme here throughout all of this, and that is I did not pick up on anybody's name in this movie.
No, same.
I didn't even think that these not Cenobites had names, so it's a miracle that you have this list and that they do have names there.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Well, the goofy tall one that that thing happens to him in the end there. His name is Gaunt, 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 who's played by Matthew McGrory.
So that particular character, we can get into it a little later, but if anybody knows what I'm talking about right now, the horror makeup show at Universal Studios, he's got this look about him that sort of reminds me of the fake animatronic that hides in the corner until the end of the show.
Yes.
He just has this fake, weird look about him. He's kind of like a cross between that and the Frankenstein specifically from the Monster Squad. So he's got this unique, gangly look about him. He's kind of cool. I'll give him that. He's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's the next actor in one of the newest Rob Zombie films. I can already see it. He just has that vibe to him.
Herman Jr. and the Munsters 2.
Definitely. I thought his wife was playing that character.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah. She's
Sherry Moon
a
Zombie?
one-woman show.
Yeah. Then finally, we have Ariana Albright, who plays Ellie Ibon. So yeah, a cast of a whole lot of people that I've personally never really heard of.
Look, it's a really low-budget movie, clearly, from the outset. So it's not like we're going to get, a young George Clooney in it or something like that. Though, maybe, there's still time left. You never know. What's his name? Eric. He might be the next leading man in a Marvel picture. We don't know the future and what it holds for us.
All right. So the opening scene, we see the scientist Ebon records a message about successfully reanimating the dead. He's our Rob Zombie, John Davis lookalike. Then he's attacked by a zombie in his own lab. The scene cuts to like a month later where we see this doctor, Sarah Ross, who's examining a corpse in a morgue. And there's this really great, like, melancholy Resident Evil music playing in the background. It's just so, like, that music that makes you just feel, like, really alone and kind of scared, too? It's very mysterious. And it's always, like, a piano and, like, it's echoey, kind of. Yeah, this music's playing while she's examining this corpse.
It's perfect morgue music.
Oh,
is
yeah.
What I think you mean to say. Like,
it is.
This movie doesn't nail everything, but I will give it that. This opening scene here, especially at the morgue, it does set that up really well. The atmosphere is there. The ambiance is perfect. And what I do want to say is, help me with this, you said it was Ebon, not Ivan? It's Ebon?
Yeah, it's Ebon. Eibon.
So the thing that I was really having a hard time wrapping my mind around for this whole movie, aside from his name, clearly, is that you just mentioned the events of the very opening take place a month before the events of the movie that we're watching.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because the way that his character gets played off and his character motivations, it almost feels like he should be a mad scientist from like 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah, it totally does, man. It just feels so out of place.
It does. I don't even want to call it a subplot. It's part of the main plot, but it's weird that it happens so close to the actual events. like I said, he feels like he should have done this in like the late 1800s. Like he was a mad scientist. His experiments went too far, and they ended up costing him his life. And then we should fast forward 100 years and like the unbeknownst great grandchildren of his bring back his experiments and him from the dead. Like that's how it feels like this should go. This story should be the direction it should be heading in, and it doesn't. And that's the thing I think that has tripped me up the most watching it and like thinking back and trying to examine it is like, oh, well, that only happened a month before. Like he was living in the present, same as these kids who are now, well, we'll get to it, who are now existing as we're watching them. So anyways, that was hard for me to wrap my brain around. We'll fast forward a little bit into the beginning here. So we're back in the morgue. And yeah, this girl, this doctor is performing an autopsy. And then that's when we get our first good look at this corpse that she's trying to, well, as she says, slice and dice him.
Yeah, this very yellowed corpse. If you ever saw Return of the Living Dead, the yellow cadaver in the beginning there, it kind of has that going for him. He just looks like a bundle of Play-Doh.
I'll do you one better. I think the perfect analog for this corpse is that, yes, he is very yellow, but he also has a portion of his skull exposed around his eye. He is a dead ringer. If you've ever seen the movie The Warriors, for one of the baseball player gang members.
I can see it.
It literally looks like one of those guys laying on the autopsy table.
So she's operating on this cadaver, doesn't know that it's a zombie. She looks away for like a second. The zombie or the cadaver is just gone. And he swoops up behind her and like slits her throat, throws her down on the examining table. And then he fucking mounts her like they're about to do some human zombie intercourse.
And that is where things get really weird. I turned to you and I was like, I have never seen this in a movie and nothing could have prepared me for what we're watching.
No.
And I think what was happening is that he killed her and in the span of 30 seconds killed her and began to turn her into a zombie, Grimey.
Oh, that was quick.
So I think that's what happened because then you mentioned, yes, so he mounts her. Things are getting very erotic very quickly. And then she comes back to life and she is into it. Like she is very into it. And then they start making out like hardcore.
Yeah, there's no thought in between. She just opens her eyes and it's just like a full-on makeout sesh. And then we're interrupted, cut, and we realize that these are our film crew people that stumbled into this abandoned place a month later.
Yeah. I have to admit, that was like the biggest bummer moment for me because while I was shocked and stunned to see a woman who might possibly now be a zombie making out with another zombie and seemingly ready to go the distance. Like, it seemed like they were just heading in that direction. Like, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
That cut and then the reframing of our experience, and now we know that this is all just a scene in a movie that they're making. Kind of a disappointment. Have to admit, like, because all of a sudden this potential for it being the craziest movie I've ever seen is just thrown out the window.
Yeah, I have to wonder though, what kind of movie were they even making? Like, are they making porn? Is this a porn that they're making?
I'm kind of glad that you brought that up because it seems like it could be a softcore porno.
Yeah, like seriously.
The problem with that is we quickly find out that the director of this movie is the lead actress's brother.
Yeah.
And then we quickly find out after that he has another sister who storms into the room who was supposed to be playing the part of the lead actress. So now we have two fighting sisters who are pissed at their brother. And I don't know about you, but there was some palpable sexual tension in that scene.
A lot.
And it made me even more comfortable. Like, you're not only directing one of your sisters in a sex scene, You have another sister who is upset that she wasn't in this sex scene. And then he has to go and basically talk her down and calm her down. And in that moment when they're kind of talking and trying to get back on each other's level, I felt like they were going to lean in and French each other. It was very gross for me. I didn't like it, like not one bit.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's weird. And for a movie that has a lot of, I guess, sexually explicit content, it doesn't actually have that much at the same time. Like, you don't see no coconuts or anything. That was surprising. I thought for sure there was going to be an abundance, and there was none. So, it, threw us a curveball.
Yeah. This movie throws a lot of curveballs. And only a handful of them are good curveballs, I'd say. But yeah, that was the first big one for me, was that hard cut. And, hey, we're actually making a movie. Don't know that I liked it. I would change it if I were making this movie and say, lean into the weirdness. Like, lean into this gross zombie makeout session, and then just go from there. Get depraved.
So we already mentioned that Nina and Shelley, the sisters, they're kind of losing their shit with each other, and this kind of causes some tension and delays the filming. There's a point where I believe it was Nina and this other guy, they go into this one portion of this hospital and it's all torn up. They find a tape and they're like, what is going on here? Like, this must be a scene for a setting for the movie or whatever. And they pop the tape in and it's actually Eban's little tape that he recorded himself on when he got killed. They're like, yeah, this totally, Dave must have left this in here and they're getting ready to shoot. We'll just bring this tape, take it to him and regroup. I happen to notice that there was a random stab poster in the background there from Scream. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that, but what I will say is when the brother and sister are having their little talk, they're sitting in a graveyard set that they've constructed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's cool that Stab makes an appearance, but I also noticed that Lucio Fulci, so somebody making this movie, The Dead Hate the Living, must have been a huge, huge Fulci fan, because one of the gravestones actually says Lucio Fulci on it. And then not long after that, there's a hard cut to a bumper sticker that just says Fulci lives as a car drives off. So you can sense that the people making this movie were very big horror fans. There's a lot of little nods and winks to the audience who clearly likes the same thing that the director and the writer and everybody involved do.
Yeah, a lot of cool little Easter eggs. I'm sure there's a bunch that we didn't pick up on, but it's appreciated. So the kids, they're all arguing and they go into this one strewn area and they find this interesting little discovery where Eban's lab and his corpse in a strange coffin for some reason is just kind of sitting in this weird lab area. And the lead person here, the director, David, just says, fuck it. We're not telling anybody about this corpse or this coffin or any of this weird shit. We're going to continue making this movie, and guilt trips every one of the cast into doing it.
All right, okay. So two things. First of all, when they wander into this room and they find this giant, I'm going to call it a coffin. It's like, it ends up being more than a coffin. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and this coffin is like, you would swear you would have seen it in like 2004 Hot Topic.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that, to me, my brain immediately, as soon as I saw this, went, oh, that looks just like Svengoolie's coffin that he hangs out.
Oh, yeah. I can see it.
Yeah, it's very, very Svengoolie. It's oversized, and it's just like half from a Nickelodeon game show. You could expect to see it on like a Nickelodeon game show at Halloween. Half Svengoolie. But yes, to kind of go back, Eban, they open the coffin, Eban falls out, and I've got a note here because I couldn't believe it. David, because see, I keep getting their names mixed up, but it is David. You're right, the director and brother. is the biggest fucking moron I've ever seen in my life. So the first thing you do, you're walking around in an abandoned hospital shooting a movie. I don't even know that they have a permit to shoot this movie, by the way. We're just assuming that they do and that they haven't broke in, right? So he opens a fucking coffin that he stumbles upon. First off, big red flag. Why is there a coffin in this hospital? If I see that shit when I walk into a random room I've never been in, I sure as hell am not gonna fucking open it. But he does anyways. A corpse falls out, a month-old corpse. And what does he say? What if our movie had something that no other horror movies have? A real dead body. Like, what is he thinking? And why is everybody else so quick to just be like, yeah, all right.
Oh, dude, they all bump fists. They're like, yeah, this is fine. It's all good.
I mean, he's probably right. Like, yeah. And he does this whole big speech after that. Because there is a little hesitation, a tiny, tiny bit of hesitation, where people are like, we should probably call the cops. And he's like, wait a minute. If we call the cops, we shut this movie down. Then he proceeds to go around the circle and just make fun of every single one of these people. He's like, and you know, if we don't make this movie, you got to go back to being a stripper. And you're going to go back to being a bag boy at the supermarket. And I don't really know you, but your life probably sucks. And you're going to have to go back to your shitty life instead of, you know, making great art with me. And like everybody lets him bully them, basically. But they frame it as like this big inspirational speech, which is like the funniest part of it. And everybody's like, yeah, maybe he is right. Maybe a dead body's not that big of a deal. It's like,
yeah, except for Nina. Nina's the voice of reason. She's just like, you know what? No, I don't feel comfortable doing this. But she's still kind of a piece of shit because she doesn't call like the police or anything. She just kind of goes to her little corner of the hospital, and that's pretty much it. That's as far as her rebellion goes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna partake in this right now. But call me in like a half hour, and maybe I'll be a little bit more okay with it. No, I'm not going to call the cops.
Yeah, once you guys are done shooting your dead corpse scene, I'll be all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, put him back in that thing and pretend like that never happened.
So they're shooting their scene with this coffin and this corpse, unknowingly what any of this stuff even is, what it does. They kind of play around with this coffin, and this strange purple light and this vortex appears, and they open this gate to this weird zombie dimension, apparently. I don't really understand it, but it's fucking awesome. And Ebon comes out, he's alive, and he brings out 2 zombies with him, who I believe are both Gaunt and Maggot.
Yes, Maggot. Maggot being not Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. Legally distinct Nemesis from Resident Evil 3.
They kill Eric too, though, don't they? They kill Eric, and then like they come back out, and Eric's alive.
Listen, there's some continuity stuff going on here. Don't really ask me to tell you what happens when, or if they commit to things. Like I don't really know. Okay, what I will say is, quickly doubling back, this coffin opens up. You called it what, like a zombie dimension? Is that how you described it?
I guess it's some kind of weird.
It becomes like
dimension
a Stargate.
Of the dead. Yeah.
It kind of becomes like a Stargate, and you're right, kind of like to like a dimension of the dead. And in that, it reminds me very much of like Phantasm. I don't know if you've ever actually dipped into the Phantasm movies, but the Tall Man, I think you must at least know.
Oh yeah,
the Tall Man is.
Yep.
He's from another like dimension. And every now and then the other characters get to like stumble upon the other dimension. So this kind of reminds me of that. Like maybe this is a little bit of a Phantasm homage. I guess maybe like a little bit of a Stargate homage. It's just, we've seen it before. All of a sudden this portal opens up and things are coming into our world that shouldn't be. Like they have their own world. Yeah. And I guess some of those things are not Rob Zombie and not Frankenstein from the Monster Squad and not Nemesis wandering out into our worlds.
So we're not really sure what exactly is going on here, why Eban wants to bring all these people to the dead side. It's not really clear. I can't remember exactly what portion of the film we learn it, but he does talk about his love interest who died of cancer, and he was trying to bring her back from the dead. And we actually see her at some point too, and like they have the two of the teens are kind of randomly going through where she's at, and there's a bunch of zombies there, none of them which are named. They're just random kind of extras. And he's like talking through her. She gets up on the table. They have a gun. And this girl decides to just punch her right in the face. And it goes right through her skull.
Punch her right through the face. I could not believe it. It was very... I don't even remember what movie it's from. But there's some movie that the woman who played Mama Fratelli in The Goonies... You must have seen this clip 1,000 times before, where she gets like a basketball or something literally to the dome and her head just like explodes
up. Yeah.
in this movie. And this is like the even more lower budget version of that scene. Still cool though. I was like,
it was
oh,
pretty
damn.
great.
She punched right through that face. Yeah, fuck her up. Hell yeah.
There is quite a few interesting kills throughout this film. Like there's at one point where one of the cast members they're like holding him through one of the windows and his entire head just is missing. I don't really even know what happened there.
I could not believe the amount of decapitation in this movie. There was like, I think at least 3 decapitations.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of a lot for a single hour-and-a-half long movie. Like, I don't know that I've seen that many before.
Yeah. So one of the sisters, they actually foreshadow her having a part in the film that they're creating where she loses her head. And that ends up happening towards the end of the movie in real life. Like I think Maggot just goes up and like twists her fucking noggin right off.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of mimics the whole look of him holding the head that happened earlier in this movie, but it was obviously the prop before that. There's one part I do want to bring up as well. So earlier, obviously, I was talking about the Universal Horror Makeup Show.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've never been. Have you ever had a chance to watch what that live show is at all?
I've seen clips of it. I've never watched it in its entirety, but I have seen a bunch of snippets that I feel like I could just piece the movie together in my head.
All right,
or not the movie, but the play. Sorry.
So this movie, The Dead Hate the Living, I've already drawn that connection once to the horror makeup show. It actually has a second connection, although it's not so much a connection. It's me drawing a connection between this and my experiences. So one point in that Universal Horror Makeup Show, it's blown my mind since I was a kid because I always forget how the gag works. So they call up an audience member onto the stage, and then all of a sudden the host pulls out a knife. He's talking to the audience. He's telling a story, and all the while he's sawing through the audience member's arm. And then the next thing you know, the knife is stuck in the person's arm. This is not a plant in the audience. This is a person that they pulled from the audience. They're bleeding. The knife's in their arm, and you're like, holy crap, how did he do that? Well, he reveals the effect a moment after you see it happen, and he actually pulls the knife off. So what you end up seeing is that in the blade, there's a circle cut out of the blade itself that's hidden away, and it just gets caught on the arm, so it looks like the knife went through the person's arm or their flesh. This movie does that gag. At one point, there's a fake machete gag. Somebody gets it to the head, and you're like, oh, nice. They got a machete to the head, kind of like Friday the 13th. Next thing you know, they pull it off, and there's a hole cut out of the machete. And I was like, oh my God. They did the horror makeup show gag. Good for them. That's very meta. They acknowledged the special effects industry, which is very cool. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, nice catch. I never would have known. You could tell they're all very huge fans of other random pieces of horror, and it's just really appreciated when they put little Easter eggs like that into a film like this. It reminds me of that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's just like, that right there, that's us the entire time.
Oh, yeah. The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme where, like, it's just a movie nerd, and, like, if you're looking hard enough, you're going to pick up on some stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of like the Stab poster, which I missed, or like the Lucio Fulci stuff. Yeah, there's all little bits and pieces floating around in this movie. And while it doesn't have a huge budget, you can tell that there's a lot of passion there. They might not be the best at making movies like everybody involved in this, but they certainly have a passion for it and for the medium, and that comes through at least. So it like put it up a couple notches on my belt in terms of like respect for it, at least.
Now that we have this zombie rampage, the crew members obviously are being picked off one by one. There's this final showdown scene between David and Paul, who decide to disguise themselves as zombies to kind of get through this horde and infiltrate Ebon's little lair that he's kind of made himself, and Paul dies in the process. Topaz, the random mall goth girl, she's taken because she's the one that killed Ebon's woman, so he went after her, and he's kind of going up there to like save her, I guess.
But they do make a joke about how they have a gun. Why are we using a TV to try to kill this guy?
That's right. Yeah. So Paul has the TV. They find the gun underneath it. And he's like, I got an idea. And it cuts to them. He just like lobs the TV at Gaunt. It is the absolute worst effect I think I've ever seen of just electricity and voltage just like coursing through this TV.
Yeah. This is where the movie started to lose me. Because I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to special effects and like cheesy special effects, but again, this is from the year 2000. Now we've got apps on our phone where we can literally make it look like, your house blew up, and it's like a pretty convincing effect. Like you can literally click the overlay, and all of a sudden your house blew up, and you could send that video to your mom, and she'd be like, "Oh my god,
oh no,
call the emergency services." Like, this movie, clearly the digital effects that they're using for both this electrocution scene and a subsequent fire scene, they leave a lot to be desired. Like, it would have been better if the electrocution and the fire were implied rather than shown, because, like, they are that distracting to watch. I was watching it, and I was like, oh my god, this looks like clip art that you would find on Kid Pics from 1998, like on a Windows 98 computer. It's just not good. It really, really pulls you out of it. I was pretty into it up until that point.
And then we have the final scene where I guess they just light everything on fire.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire happening, and then Serge Tanky in there, Ebon, he gets stabbed right in the twig and berries. He takes on right to the family jewels, I tell you what.
She like does this weird little twist and stabs him right in the dick.
And the worst part about that he's already died once. Imagine having to die a second time, and that's the way that you go out. You get stabbed right in your ball bag. That sucks, man. I felt bad for him in that moment.
So, they kill off Ebon. He's gone. Most of the zombies are done for, and they attempt to leave, and they find themselves stuck in this dimension of the dead. So they end up going inside the coffin. It's the weirdest place ever. It's ominous. It's like red and purple and hazy, and there's bats flying all over the place and trees and stuff. It's like just this crazy looking dimension, and that's really pretty much how the movie ends.
That's it. The movie just ends. I can't describe how confused I really got in like the last 10 minutes of this movie. We mentioned it briefly earlier, but things really just seem to happen, and in no particular order. It all seems very chaotic. And then all of a sudden, these last two characters walk through this coffin. Like you said, they end up in the land of the dead, and then the movie just ends. Like, there's no real resolution to it. There's no real explanation. It's just over. Like, I remember being so shocked when that end song came up and the credits started rolling, and I was like, oh, I guess we're just done now. I guess that's the whole movie. It felt like a very unsatisfying ending.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. And it just confusing all around. Like, I fell asleep. We had to rewind it in between. And I still don't remember exactly how everything went. And then just to give us this weird ending, I don't know, Tom Savini says that it's unique on the front of this cover. So I guess it's good.
Yeah, the best quote they could get to put on that VHS cover was unique ... Tom Savini. And it's like, was that actually the best quote that you could pull together, or was that the best way that you could frame Tom Savini's quote to make it look like Tom Savini liked your movie? I don't. That's probably it, I would assume.
More than likely. The other ones, I don't know who these people are. Chaz Ballin from Deep Red Magazine and Jeff Bond from Eon Magazine. They're both left on the back where nobody can see them.
And I would assume print media is just about dead, that maybe those magazines no longer exist. I could be wrong, but maybe they don't. So I was thinking, like, very unsatisfying ending. We've got these two characters stuck in a new world. I hate to say this, but I almost want a sequel, because I almost just want to see it through, to see what happens to those two characters, and maybe to learn a little bit more about this alternate dead universe. And Grimey, I thought of the perfect title. You're gonna just like punch me in the face when you hear me say this.
Oh man, I'm ready for it.
The living hate the dead.
The living hate the dead. Wow. I love that. Wow, that's clever, man. I really like that.
They're stuck in the land of the dead, two living people. They hate it. They got to get back home. I don't know. I think it could work. So maybe we should write a letter to Charles Band and the folks at Full Moon Pictures and make a pitch for The Living Hate the Dead.
Yeah.
The 25-year later sequel to a movie that nobody remembers. But I mean, we could pull something together and make it probably at least as good as this movie. Yeah,
I feel like the dudes from Stranger Things would probably get it, and they would just be like, look, there's Demogorgons and stuff in here.
Yeah, no, I would do it so different, man. It would just be like me in like just purple face paint.
Oh, so you would be impersonating Crunchback.
Yes, the Crunchback, exactly. Yeah, it would actually be a sneaky way to get Crunchback, my original character, his own feature-length film.
Oh, shit. All right, so what are our final thoughts on this? Is there anything that you would change? Anything you would do different? I can think of one thing that I might do different. And we kind of touched on it already.
I want to hear what you would do different. I think I've said my piece mostly.
Okay, so like we said earlier, Eban, it just seems super out of place. He's not very convincing. He's supposed to be this mad scientist type guy. I picture mad scientists to be like Doc Brown. So like old, losing most of their hair. This guy's got a full head of hair. That's not convincing. And he probably listens to Korn and Limp Bizkit. Also not convincing. He looks like he would be in like the Queen of the Damned. So maybe make him a lot older, like a Doc Brown kind of situation. That might have made this just a little bit better, I think.
The one issue I have with what you just said is that he wouldn't be in the Queen of the Damned. He would be in the knockoff, the full moon version called the Princess of the Darned.
Oh, shit. The silly goose of the Hecht.
Yes, that's exactly it. Man, I don't even know. Can I recommend this one? It's probably not going on the end cap of Derek's Rex. I have to say that. If I'm comparing it to the last movie that we watched, I actually would watch Monster Mash the movie again. I thought that was fun. If this movie was drastically different and it had stuck with what the beginning was setting up before we got that rug pulled out from under us, I think I would have liked this a lot better. But just overall pretty confusing. Felt like there was a lot cut out of it that maybe needs to be back in there to make this a more satisfying and sensical watch. So, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I wouldn't recommend it. I guess
You
that's
wouldn't
where
recommend it?
I
Okay.
guess that's what I'm sticking with. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to just say that you should watch it at least once. At least once. If you're bored, you have it in your possession, you have nothing else going on, you'd rather not watch paint dry or like grass grow, throw it on, give it a chance. You're probably not going to fall in love with it, but you're going to have a couple of scenes where you're going to be like, oh wow, that was neat.
And the music kicks ass. I'll give it that. The best thing that this movie does is its soundtrack. So if nothing else, if you have even slight curiosity, just look up the songs from it. All right. Penis Flytrap is where it's at. It's good for that. It taught me about the wonders of Penis Flytrap.
I'm a huge fan of Penis Flytrap. PFT. PFT all the way, bro.
PFT heads. We should try to catch a show.
I think we shall. Well, that was a lot of fun, but I do think that's probably all the time we have. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in and listening.
And while this leftover pizza video episode may be over, the fun is just beginning. Head over to our Facebook group, The Leftover Pizza Club, and join in on the discussion.
That's right. We post a discussion thread for each new episode so you can chime in with other listeners and talk about your favorite episode, bits,
or tear us a new one.
As long as it's constructive and civil, it's fair game.
And if you just can't get enough of us, you can always check us out on Instagram and Threads at Leftover Pizza Podcast. And you can find us on Twitter or X at Leftover Pizza Club. That's LFTOVR Pizza Club.
And if you're looking to read some nostalgic content, you can always check out our blog, leftoverpizzaclub.com.
And lastly, wherever you're listening to us, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. All that stuff helps us a great deal, and we appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think we're getting any other customers anytime soon tonight. So why don't you hit the lights? I'll get the door.
And don't tell old man Jenkins, but open up that cash register and grab a 20. We're hitting DQ on the way home, my boy.
Yeah, I gotta get that pumpkin blizzard, baby.
Yeah, you can get that. They've got a French silk pie one out right now.
I seen that.
I'm not saying that I had it the other night, but I'm getting it again tonight because it was absolutely delectable. We earned this, I think.
After this movie?
After this movie and after this day of zero business.
I can hear Jenkins now. Why are we fucking $20 short?
Fucking Jenkins.